Welcome back to the Southern Showdown podcast. I'm Tripp. This is Chris. An exciting week in the SEC last week. Alabama pulls out a close win against A&M. LSU has a little backdoor cover with that pick six, and Georgia just dominates Kentucky. It was a fun week of college football, and I'm excited for this week as well.
Oh, yeah, me too. We got a little late-night Friday session for you guys. It's going to be a little bit of a struggle getting through this one. I'm a little tired, but here we go, trying to give it to you guys. So.
All right, let's look at the games from last week. We're going to start with the LSU Missouri game. We'll start with that one.
Yeah, we'll start with that little LSU Missouri. That was a good little back and forth game for a long time. I really thought Missouri had the upper hand for a very long time in that game, till at the end LSU. Man, Jaden Daniels. That's all you got to say about this game. Jaden Daniels single-handedly brought them back into this game with his feet, with the passing. A lot of it on his feet though. And then at the very end, I took LSU to cover. I didn't have it as one of my picks, but I had it as one of my SEC picks. Took LSU to cover, and it was a little backdoor cover with Brady Cook's first interception in a very long time. He led the SEC in consecutive passes without an interception, and then throws the interception there at the end of the LSU game.
He actually has the record for the longest in SEC history until that pick. But yeah, it was a great back-and-forth game. Jaden Daniels balls out once again. I will say my quarterback top 10 was very flawed, but at least I got number one right in the preseason. But it was a great game, and I was jumping up and screaming because I also picked LSU. And that pick six, that just never happens. That never happens.
Yeah. That was a nice backdoor cover.
Very excited. And LSU just kind of dominated on the run game. They had two 100-yard rushers, Jaden Daniels and Diggs at running back. Both had over 130 yards. It was just
very pointsy.
Yeah.
Very.
If you're a defensive coordinator, you don't like this game.
I don't know.
At all.
Big pointsy game.
Move on to our next game. What game we going to?
Oh man, I knew it. I felt this one in my veins with Western Michigan and Mississippi State. I just figured that I really felt like Western Michigan was going to kind of hang around in this game, and they hung around till the very end. But I had to take Mississippi State. They were a dark horse at the beginning of the year. I just felt like I couldn't just throw them to the wolves, and I had to back them. I backed them, but they only win by 13. I guess you could say they took care of business, but man, as we sound like a broken record because we just keep on saying how Mississippi State just has not turned out to be the football team that we projected at the beginning of this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And Will Rogers, I think he left in the third quarter of this game, so there was parts of this game where I was watching where I thought they would finally pull away and beat them pretty good, and they just let Western Michigan stick around. It was very disappointing to watch because it's a team I anticipated to be a lot better than they are this year. And also, I hope Will Rogers gets better. He's probably got a good career ahead of him. I hope he gets a speedy recovery. But just a kind of back and forth, especially in the second half. It was a close game in the second half.
Yeah, I feel like they just need something different.
Yeah.
Something different. They haven't got it figured out.
And
there
that Mississippi State secondary is absolutely atrocious. I mean, you let a Western Michigan quarterback throw for 262 yards and 3 touchdowns on you. It's kind of rough. Like they got to get something figured out over there.
Mississippi State needing something. We had the old Alabama versus Texas A&M. Man, that was a pretty good game. I had Alabama. Alabama covers for us. A little slight cover there. Am I right?
Yeah, Alabama was only favored 1 point.
1 point. Yeah, that's right. So good game, real good game. I feel like even though the game was 26-20, I feel like Alabama kind of controlled the game, the entire game. I think that was the plan for them, and they got it done. Milroe looked a lot better through the air, looked good on the ground, but the biggest thing for Milroe is he looked a lot better through the air.
Yeah. And Jermaine Burton had a heck of a day. 9 receptions, dang near 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and that's a guy I wasn't really expecting to have a day like that. I mean, he's always been a pretty talented wide receiver. He usually just talks that talk, but don't really walk that walk. You know what I'm saying? All bark but no bite.
I don't know about that, man.
He showed up against A&M.
I don't know. Jermaine's the man.
Jermaine Burton, I don't really like him.
I feel like he's always been the man.
He's a punk, dude. He's a punk.
He might be a punk. He can back it up a little bit.
Well, let's just move on.
There's another guy out there coaching right now. He's kind of a punk, but he can back it up.
Oh, Dion. He couldn't hold Dion's jockstrap.
Next game we had was the old Florida Vandy game. Florida, they just dominated this game. It was a little close in the first quarter. Then they get the 2 touchdowns in the second, and Vandy don't score. And Florida really just controlled this game. They look good again. But I will say, it's a Vandy team that I was a little bit higher on. It's hard not to be higher on all these SEC teams. I back the SEC. Yes, we're Tennessee fans and we want to beat everybody in the SEC, but I back the SEC true and through, and Vandy just really hasn't lived up to my expectations. I took them to make some upsets this year that they couldn't do, but this is one I did have them losing, but,
Yeah.
Florida gets it.
Yeah, Florida just pretty much controlled this game all the way through. Montrell Johnson had a great game on the ground. They had that good 1-2 punch with him and ETN. And ETN didn't really light it up as much as Johnson did this game, but just their run game has been solid throughout this whole year. And Graham Mertz has really been kind of inconsistent, but this game he was very, very efficient. He was 30 for 36 passing, had 3 touchdowns through there, and he just looked good against Vanderbilt. And Florida just kind of dominated, controlled the game all the way through.
For sure. And then we had that old Georgia and Kentucky. Man, I really can't believe that I took Kentucky last week in this pick, because right before the game started, I was like, I wish I could get back on the podcast and take Georgia. Take Georgia right now. Not even just for an SEC pick. I wanted to take them for an overall pick. But I don't know. I just wasn't feeling them that night. But Georgia gets a big time cover. 51-13. Carson Beck throws for like 390 or something like that, almost 400 yards. They hit him on the ground. Bowers was super Powers. Heisman candidate for sure. Good Lord, when's the last time has a tight end won the Heisman?
I don't think a tight end has ever won the Heisman.
Never.
But Brock Bowers is top 10 in Heisman odds right now.
Man, that dude. There was a long time where Heisman were like, the best player on the best team, and Georgia's proven again this year so far to be that best player, and the best team, and Brock Bowers is definitely proven to be the best player.
Oh yeah, I had a feeling about this game. Georgia, they didn't start out slow like they had all year. I still thought they might start out slow, but I had a feeling they would just dominate Kentucky. And it's not because I just always hate on Kentucky. I just feel like,
come on now,
I feel like Georgia hasn't. This was their breakout game. This was their statement game. People have been doubting them because they're slow starts against these lower tier teams, and then they come out and just dominate against Kentucky. And now they're the only undefeated SEC team left. Carson Beck looked great. He did throw 1 pick, but other than that, he was pretty much perfect. And Brock Bowers, once again, is Brock Bowers and does Brock Bowers things.
So it's that and the fact that you hate Kentucky, right?
Well, I also hate Kentucky, but
next game we had was Arkansas and Ole Miss. This one was a little closer than expected. I figured Ole Miss would kind of run away with this one, but 27-20, a little breakout win at the end for Ole Miss. Good game in this one. Jackson Dart, did he come out in this game at all, or?
No, I don't think he did.
I was only able to watch the beginning of this one.
I watched the first half of this game. I didn't watch the whole lot of the second half. But Jackson Dart, I don't think came out. But Arkansas, just a lot of heartbreaks. They're probably the best 2 and 4 team out there.
Yeah.
They've had so many close games. They could have won against LSU. They could have won this game against Ole Miss. They outscored them in the second half. They just got too much down at halftime. They were down 17-7 at halftime and just couldn't come back. So,
and here they go traveling to Bama.
Yeah.
Got to feel bad for them at this point. They're going 2-5.
Yeah. KJ Jefferson, honestly, not having the year a lot of us expected KJ Jefferson to have. He still looks like a solid quarterback. A lot of people were expecting him to be the top dog, like the guy.
I think he's done great, but as I said at the beginning of the year, and as you said, he's a guy that just carries that team. He's trying to single-handedly. I said you stepped in and said I'll go ahead and say it. He single-handedly carries that team, and that's what he's trying to do, and it's a tough task.
And I know Rocket Sanders has had a lot of injury issues too. And that's another guy that they really depend on this offensive side of the ball. But, I mean, even when he's been healthy, he hadn't really been producing the way that they want him to. And that could just be because he's not 100% and he wants to play.
Right.
But it's just tough half of the year for Arkansas. Maybe they can turn it around. Maybe be bowling by the end of this year. But it's going to be tough.
That's tough. I'd have to see their schedule, look at the stretch they've got going down to the end here.
I think that's all we got for this past week.
Yeah. Go ahead and break into your
top five.
What you got for the top five this week?
Top five for this week, I got 2 honorable mentions. First honorable mention, Montrell Johnson, running back for Florida. He had 156 yards on the ground and a touchdown. He just ran all over Vanderbilt. Looked like an elite running back again this week. Second honorable mention, Caleb Downs. He was actually in the top 5 last week. He's just been playing great. Good Alabama defensive back. He had 7 total tackles and another interception in this game. So that's another interception. 2 weeks in a row he's had an interception. And then at number 5, Malik Neighbors for LSU, wide receiver. He had 6 receptions, 146 yards and a touchdown. And he just helped them pull away in that second half, was a big factor in that game. And then number 4, I got Graham Mertz, extremely efficient against Vanderbilt, 30 for 36, 254 yards and 3 touchdowns. He just kind of showed what he can be, even though sometimes he doesn't always show up. He showed up that day. And then number 3, once again, I got that Bowers-Beck connection. They just absolutely balled out. Beck had almost 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and Brock Bowers had 132 yards and a touchdown, receiving with about 6-7 receptions, I believe. And then at number 2, a guy who's on the list almost every week is Jaden Daniels. He had 3 touchdowns through the air, and he had 130 yards on the ground and a touchdown. He's just like the definition of dual threat. He's probably going to be a top 10 draft pick this year, at least top 15. And then number 1, a guy I've already said I don't really like, but he showed up last Saturday, Jermaine Burton. 9 receptions, 197 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was a humongous factor in this game, and I don't think Alabama would have won without him. So that's why I got number 1.
You showed that you're not going to hold any grudges, huh?
Oh, no.
Throwing Graham Mertz in the mix. Not going to hold any grudges against Florida.
Man, if he plays good, I'll throw him in there. Well,
sounds good.
Top end of this upcoming week, look at the games ahead of.
We got the Texas A&M at Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
I hope they're loud.
Oh, they're going to be loud.
They won't be there for this one.
Checker Neyland this weekend.
It's about time for a nice little weekend on the couch to watch some football. Oh, yeah. I'll tell you that. I'm kind of looking forward to it, but man, I'm looking forward to watching this game. Like he said, they're going to check the Needler Stadium out, checkerboard the
stadium.
The little. I got going on right here.
Yeah.
All I know is Tennessee's covering. Tennessee's winning. Tennessee's covering. Tennessee over A&M. No, for real though, this is 2 teams that have really great pass rushers. Really great pass rushers. Really great lines, and I think that's where this is going to be won, is in the trenches, at the front lines. Which defense is going to step up, and which quarterback is going to step up. That's really what I see in this game, and I pray it's Tennessee, and I believe it's Tennessee. I think there's a big thing at home right now. We're 12-0
in
our last 12 at home, and like you had said before, I didn't know this, but A&M is what 0-7 in their last away games. So it might seem like something where A&M's due and Tennessee's due for their loss, but I don't really believe in that. Let's go Vols. I'm taking the Vols.
I'm also taking the Vols. I think we're just going to punch them right in their mouth, and they ain't going to come back from it. I mean, it's a bold prediction, I know. Texas A&M just duked it out with Alabama, but they got us at home. We don't lose. We hadn't lost at home since 2021, and I just feel like Tennessee has the upper hand in this game, like matchup-wise. They have probably one of the best defensive fronts in college football, but Cooper Mays is back, and we saw what wonders that did in our offensive line and how we just whooped South Carolina up front with Cooper Mays back. So I think that's going to be a huge factor. And last week, Tennessee had a bye week, and Tennessee led the SEC in sacks. So they got 1 less game and only 2 less sacks than Texas A&M. So this is 2 great pass rush defenses, like you said. So I feel like that's also going to be a factor. They got a backup quarterback in. I know he's been playing pretty good, but is he going to be playing good in that atmosphere with that amount of pressure on him? I just don't see him stepping up um in that environment. The game against Alabama, they were at Texas A&M. You know what I mean? The crowd's on his side. He doesn't have that loud crowd where he can't even hear the play calls. They got to do a silent snap count, anything like that. He didn't have any of that. And Alabama's defense is great, but they excel more on the back end than they do on the front seven. So I feel like it's going to be a game where guys are in his face and the stadium is loud and he gets nervous, makes some bad plays.
Yep, it's all up to Johnson.
I think Tennessee -3 is a steal this week. So if you're a betting man, put your money on Tennessee. That's what I got to say.
Next we got is Georgia at Vanderbilt. Georgia just proved us very well that they are the top team in the country by absolutely destroying Kentucky in a game where some people thought Kentucky was going to hang around. There were actually people predicting Kentucky to win that football game. Georgia at Vandy. Vandy has not proved anything this year by any means to me or the entire country. I have to side with Georgia on this one. It is -31. Georgia has won this game 117-0 in the past 2 years. Vandy has not scored on them since 2019. I have to side with Georgia on this. I know 31 sounds like a big spread, but I think Georgia could cover this in the first half.
Wow, in the first half. This is a game I kind of juggled with a little bit. I started to pick Vandy, but Vanderbilt, I don't know. They hadn't looked very good this year. I mean, Vanderbilt don't usually look that good, don't get me wrong, but I expected them to be a little bit better because they showed growth last year. And I don't know. They hadn't showed up. So I was juggling with this one, but I ended up picking Georgia. 31 points, still a big spread for an SEC matchup, but Georgia has just whooped Vandy too much the past 4 or 5 years that I can't not take Georgia in this game. I'd feel like an idiot if I didn't take them. So
should have took Vandy.
I'm going to take Georgia in this game.
Go ahead and get another win on you. Next we got is Auburn at LSU. Something about Baton Rouge is the reason I'm going with LSU on this one. I think they are the better team. Absolutely. I think they got the better quarterback. I think Auburn's quarterback plays with heart, but LSU, God, Jaden Daniels just looked like a absolute Heisman winner this year so far, just really trying to single-handedly, carry that team. And, 11's just not enough points for me. I think that they could cover they could beat Auburn by 2 touchdowns or maybe even more, something like 21. So I got to side with LSU on this one.
I'm also siding with LSU on this one. This is a game where Auburn, they're kind of they don't score a lot of points. Their offense hadn't really been excelling a lot this year, but LSU's kind of a weak defense right now. So this is a team where they could put up more points. I know a lot of people are probably thinking, heck, they just had a game with Georgia 2 weeks ago. Why would you pick LSU -11?
Right.
But LSU's a better football team, and they could very well beat them by 2 touchdowns, maybe even 3. That's a little bit stretching it, but I just think offensively LSU's going to put up too much points for Auburn to compete with them. So that's why I'm taking LSU. And they're in Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge.
That's one of the biggest parts,
Those external factors do matter. Yeah.
Next we got is Florida at South Carolina. South Carolina is actually getting 2 points against Florida while at home. I can understand that with the way that Florida played Tennessee and then the way South Carolina played Tennessee. Biggest thing in those were home field advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much I believe these are 2 evenly matched up teams with the way they've played this year. They don't play the same style. They don't play the same way by any means, but I just think it's 2 evenly matched teams. So I got to take the points, and I got to take the home field advantage, and that's the reason I'm going with South Carolina.
I'm also taking South Carolina because South Carolina plays good at home. They haven't really showed up on the road a whole lot, but they play good at home, and we saw that last year. I don't really want to talk about it a whole lot, but they beat a team at home that wears orange pretty good. And they just show up at home, and that's why I picked South Carolina. Same reason. External factors do matter. That crowd matters. Still a bunch of college kids playing a game out there, so home field advantage is huge.
Yeah.
So, taking South Carolina -2.
Yeah, and a little bit of the points, +2. Next
yeah.
we got is Arkansas at Alabama. Arkansas is +19.5. I just see this to be too many points. Like you said, I think Arkansas is probably the best 2-4 college football team in the nation. That's not saying a whole lot that you're 2-4, but I mean, I just think 19.5 is too many points. Bama just came off of a very competitive, tough win against Texas A&M. It's just it's time for Arkansas to rebound. They're not going to rebound in the way of getting a win, but I think they're going to rebound in the way of keeping it close with a pretty good Alabama team.
I feel like Arkansas is that team that's just like right there on the edge. They're competing with all these teams. They just can't get over the hump. And, I just kind of see that happening again. I feel like Arkansas probably sticks around with Alabama in the first half, and then the second half Alabama kind of runs away with it. But I feel like almost 20 points is a little too much in any SEC matchup unless you're playing like Vanderbilt. But that's why I'm going to pick Arkansas as well. Do we have any different picks right now?
I think we're going all the same this week. Coming down to our last pick here is Missouri at Kentucky. Kentucky is -2.5. This has no reflection of the way that it went with Georgia. I got to take Missouri, even though they're at Kentucky. Missouri has just looked like a really good football team all year long. They just had a knockdown, drag-out fight with LSU, and I'm sure that's going to weigh effect on this game, but I have to take Missouri in this position. I just feel like they're a better football team. They could get down on themselves after that very heartbreaking loss. But Kentucky was also undefeated before the game with Georgia. They didn't really have a heartbreaking loss. They got absolutely destroyed. Yeah. So, both teams are on a low right now, looking to hit a new note to get a little bit high, but I got to take Missouri in this position.
All right, I said I wasn't going to hate on Kentucky, but this is the easiest pick of the entire thing.
I don't think you're ever going to side with Kentucky.
This is the easiest pick because two reasons. Brady Cook, Luther Burden. Those are the only two reasons I need. Luther Burden has almost 800 receiving yards this year. He's leading the SEC in receiving. Brady Cook's been balling, and Kentucky's just flat out not that great of a football team. They are overhyped. Anytime they start out hot, they get overhyped, and then they end up going like 7-5. So, that's just what happens.
Is that what you're picking Kentucky to do?
I don't know their schedule the rest of the way. I'm just saying. I remember like 3 or 4 years ago, they were 5-0 going to play Georgia again. They got thumped, and then they lost like 4 in a row because that's just what Kentucky does. They're a basketball school. They stick to basketball.
The way you have talked about Kentucky has just – I'm absolutely worried for the Kentucky-Tennessee game because of the way that you have talked about
Dude,
Kentucky
even if we lose, they have to beat us 60 times in a row to tie the all-time series.
We'll still be upset.
But Missouri's a better team than Kentucky. That's all I got to say. Missouri by -2.5 is an easy pick.
I hear you.
Like, if you're a betting man and you bet on the SEC, Tennessee -3, Missouri -2.5. Next week I'll apologize when I'm wrong.
Are you saying you're going to be wrong?
Probably.
I guess we'll climb on into my picks here for this week. Oh, Lordy, my overall. Last week I did lose. I went 0-2, so I am 15-9 overall on the year this year. Man, just sad week last week going 0-2. Like I said, I kind of wanted to take Georgia last week, but I'm taking them this week. You know what? I'm taking them this week. Georgia -31 versus Vandy. Now, I ain't going to tell y'all to put the house on it, but put the house on it. I really feel Georgia this week. Like I said before, they've won 117-0 in the past 2 meetings with Vandy. I really just feel Georgia. They're a dominant team. Vandy's not a good team. I know it's at Vandy. Vandy has some injuries right now, and I really just see Georgia dominating this game. The next pick I have is North Carolina -3 versus Miami. If y'all saw that Miami game last week, at the end of the game when they should have just kneeled the ball, the coaching mistake, good Lord, I just couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it. The whole nation couldn't believe it. And even in the press conference, I believe the coach still just couldn't understand. He said something about, I think we should have called a timeout and then we should have kneeled the ball. It's like, no, dude. Just go out there and kneel the ball. That's all you had to do is just go out there and kneel the ball. Obviously, they didn't. They ran the ball, fumble, take it back to the house. And I really just feel like if you're on a team like that, there's going to be some kind of commotion around the locker room, commotion with the players and the coaches. And, if you're a player for that team, can you really believe in the system right now? Can you? That they also could be absolutely pissed and just be like, we're going to we ain't out of this fight yet. We're going to go take it to North Carolina this week. but I have to take North Carolina in this position. I'm usually not a position picker, position better, but I feel right in this position with a Heisman candidate quarterback at North Carolina versus a Miami team just coming off a really excruciating hard loss.
I will try and defend Mario Cristobal a little bit. It was a horrible mess up. The announcer even said it was the worst mistake he'd seen at that level by a head coach, but it was just a brain fart, dude. Lack of focus moment. He even said in the press conference, he said his players lined up on the ball and he just wasn't paying attention. It was a lack of focus, and he should have called a timeout and stopped him from running a play, but he couldn't. So it's not his fault. It's not all on him.
It's not all on him. No,
those players should also know that they should line up taking the. It was their call, and he should have called a timeout and stopped him from doing it.
Yeah, it
but
should have been an all-around.
It was just an all-around just mess up.
And that this, like I said, that could be something where they just pick it up and say, we're pissed. We're about to take it to North Carolina, an undefeated team who's probably ranked, I believe, 12 right now. And that could be what they do. But positionally, I feel like I have to side with North Carolina. And I'm not very good with the SEC, but I have 2 SEC picks this week. The first one, like I said, was Georgia minus 31. The next one is the Vols. I'm taking the Vols minus 3 versus A&M. It's kind of another position bet. It's just the fact that the Vols are 12-0 in their last 12 at Neyland, and A&M is 0-7 in their last away games. And obviously that just sides right towards the minus 3. I mean, if you're going to win this game, I believe you're going to win it by 3 or more. So have to side with the Vols on this one. Plus, I'm a Vols fan, so I mean, I got a little bit of bias going into this
Eric
one.
Berry's going to be there too.
Usually when I pick them, I'm picking them because I feel good about it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for that Texas A&M game for sure. It's
Me too.
one I've circled on the schedule all year.
Me too.
I've been a little nervous about it, but Checker and Neyland, Eric Berry's going to be there. We're going to show up and show out. That's what I think.
It's going to be an exciting weekend.
Exciting week, SEC football.
Yes, sir.
Let's get on up and get out of here, I guess.
See you guys.
See ya.
Man, I barely made it through that one.